From the countryside of Imola, Italy, to the mountains of Stavolo, Belgium, and now to the city of Suzuka, Japan. Hello and welcome along to the Apex Online Racing GTE League, Season 11, Round 3 at the Suzuka International Racing Course. This world-renowned track features 18 corners that populate 5.81 kilometers of circuit. Originally designed as a Honda test track in 1962, Suzuka is now home to the Japanese Grand Prix, among several other major events. This afternoon, it will be hosting the drivers and teams of the AORs GTE Championship in its third round of competition. As usual, 50 cars in 3 classes will go to battle for 80 minutes to determine who will take home a trophy. Thus far, the Pro class has been dominated by Rainer Talvar and his Radicals Online Ford GT with 2 wins in 2 rounds. However, the AM and Pro-Am championships are currently much closer. Coming out of the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, Ferraris of Cass Hogenhout and Stephen Brumfield are separated by only 6 points. In our AM field, the battle for the championship lead is even closer, with a mere 2 points between leader Jan Calmet and third place Falco Verkamp. Hello to everyone, my name is Brayden Hill and welcome into our live coverage. Tonight I'm alongside producer and analyst Niclas Domino and my co-commentator James Clay. What do you gentlemen expect to see tonight? Are we going to see the championships close up or widen out in the point standings?
I think we'll see a lot of treacherous driving out there. This is a unique circuit. It's one of the few figure 8 circuits in the world, meaning that it tests both sides of the car, all your balance in both directions. Very high speed. These cars don't have a lot of downforce, and we've already seen in the practice session many offs as well as seeing it last season. So I expect this to be a big race of attrition, and it could throw the championship wide open.
I also think this will be a race of the strategy. The guys who can keep their tires alive to the end and just be, track position is key around here. It can be a bit difficult to actually overtake around Suzuka, and sometimes being close behind somebody else can just overheat and maybe get your tires a bit out of the optimal temperature. So strategy will be key and qualifying as well.
Just over a minute until we will be heading into our qualifying. The driver's currently finishing up an hour and 15 minutes of practice in this session. Any thoughts based off of what we've seen so far in practice?
Well, we have a few Pro-Am drivers that are looking a lot quicker than you might expect based off what class they put in. Philip Schiff and Craig Dancy were up there at the start of the session. As the session did develop, Cass, who of course was P2 last time out in Spa, managed to start making his way up the standings as well. But Cass, I think, didn't put in as much practice because he was participating in the Spa 24 at the weekend. So maybe he'll be one that is sort of a slow burner as this race goes on and gets more accustomed to Suzuka, which obviously very different track, slightly different cars as well, GT3s versus GTE cars. And I think in the Pro-Am it could be very tightly poised.
Something to take note of that you guys had made comments with before the broadcast. Craig Dancy in the 254 car, running right now top 5 on pace, and he is a Pro-Am driver, so showing pro-level pace despite being in a lower class. How do you think that's going to impact both the championship standings in Pro-Am and how it might impact the outcome of the Pro Championship?
I'm good friends with Craig outside of this, so I've seen a lot of his driving, and I know, and last season, I think it was last season, I could be wrong on this, but I think it was last season, where he missed out on qualifying, didn't set a lap time, and started right from the back. And Suzuka is a track where obviously you don't overtake that much, and he just rocketed through the field, so it's clearly a track that he's very quick at. Same with Spa, same with Daytona next week, and I also said that Monza is another one that he can just pull magical pace out of, but he just doesn't have the consistency at any other venue really that we go to, unlike what he has here, which means that it's a really tricky situation for people to place him in a category, because for 3-4 weeks of the season he could be right up there, top 5 overall, but then he gets into other races and he's spinning and he just doesn't quite have the raw pace, and he's just kind of off the road, and I feel like that's slightly difficult. And I think that's the thing with a lot of the Pro-Ams, is that it's that in between class where they'll have off days and on days, and they'll be up front and behind, and I mean that's what makes it so interesting, but at the same time so hard for our people at AOR that decide where these people should be placed in terms of their category.
Well, Merlin Cooper is the first off of the pit lane of the AM class to get our qualifying session underway. What do you gentlemen think we go ahead and take a tour of the circuit?
Yeah, let's do that. I'm just gonna hop onto the cockpit cam of Mr. Merlin Cooper, and we will try and follow him around here on his slow outlap.
Yes, indeed. The driver is going to be warming up those tires.
And there you just saw the bridge, you know, the figure eight now into the hairpin. This might be a place where people can overtake a little bit, but you know, you need to send it. That's, you know, if you get an overtake there, you have definitely sent it.
Yes,
style.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, indeed. That is, of course, one of the few big braking zones on the circuit, along with the entry to turn 16, the Casio Triangle, that chicane that ends the lap. So we're going to wait for Merlin to make his way around the lap, and then follow him around and talk about the circuit as we go around. How's that sound?
Yeah, let's do that.
One thing that while we're on board on the outlap, is slightly concerning from what I've heard, is that Merlin's kind of racing around a little bit here on his outlap, getting there quite quickly, and the tyres overheat a lot at the moment, but as we come around to the final corner, so he's going to have to watch out as he goes on to his hot lap.
Yeah, you can already see him locking up the brakes, cold tires, and a lot of people, especially with Ferrari, have been complaining about the tires from iRacing causing some overheating and loss of performance, particularly on that 488 GTE. But Merlin, starting his lap, catapults the car into turn 1, which is technically made up of turn 1 and 2, a treacherous double apex corner that will be a 180-degree double apex. They're catapulted into arguably the most technical area of the track, which is the S's. It's easy to get dizzy watching them alternate left, right, from turn 3 all the way through turn 7, as he now approaches the Dunlop curb. Coming through the Dunlop curb full out, getting as much exit speed as possible. Now he's going to rapidly downshift and pitch the car clockwise through Degner at turn 8, and then brake even harder to make turn 9 and head uphill under the bridge in the direction of turn 11, the hairpin. But first he has to go through here turn 10, the small kink going into the hairpin, that hard braking zone where we're going to see a lot of action throughout the race. From here, they are going to try and hold it flat as they approach the most treacherous and difficult area on the course, which is the spoon curve. But first he has to maximize that speed out of the hairpin as he heads in. Spoon curve beginning with this wide turn 13 that rapidly gets tighter into turn 14 and leads onto yet another long straight. If you miss this set of corners, you're almost guaranteed to lose positions. That is, of course, if you don't end up in the barrier on that driver's right hand side. Comes up through the straightaway here, which isn't really straight. Long curve here, and will tip the car in through turn 15, try to hold the gas as wide open as possible, and approaches the end of the lap, which is made up of the Casio Triangle, which is a highly technical chicane here that feeds back onto the pit straight. Watch out for a lot of big moves entering this chicane, because that long straightaway that precedes it, that's going to allow drivers to slipstream and attempt some pretty ballsy moves entering turn 16.
And across the line, Cooper comes and sets a 1 minute 57.0, which puts him 6/10 clear of Daniele Mamano, who had just come across behind him. Cohen Van Eyck usurps both of them, going 4/10 clear at the top with a 156.696. That's a lot of sixes in there as well, so glad I got that right the first time around. Other than that, we don't yet have any lap times. It's very tricky around here to navigate without getting any off-track incident points, which will invalidate your lap time, and so that's probably likely to be what has caused this loss of lap times from multiple drivers throughout the Anfield, and it just is one thing that's going to watch out for. One thing I am slightly I'm slightly surprised by from what I'm seeing is that drivers continue to do multiple laps. We saw it last week in Spa, that on these new sort of remodeled, not exactly new version, but just slightly adjusted tires that have been put on these GTE cars, is that they kind of have their best lap right out of the box, sort of a qualifying set of tires, in a sense, where you kind of get one lap and then they fall off a bit. And actually Cohen has decided to pull over, so maybe that's the wise move. But in our later categories, especially, I expect to see multiple one lap runs. So it's that kind of do an out lap, do a flying lap, pit, go again and again and again until the time runs out, because it's just so important to have that fresh set of tires on with this new model.
Oh, definitely. But sometimes with these drivers and the AMs, sometimes it's just being out there, because you might have done, one or two mistakes on your first lap, where, on the second lap you might pick them up. So sometimes the AMs will just get more out of actually doing multiple laps, just due to not making the mistakes, and they don't have that much time, so it's also just getting it in there. But Van Eyck, we're glad to see him back here, and he's definitely somebody, I think, now he's on provisional pole in the AM class, who we have seen in the past having quite a few poles in the class, but not really getting them into victories. He's always a magnet of crashes and stuff like that in the beginning of races. But he is a fast driver. A couple of seasons ago, he actually took P2 overall in the at Suzuka, not Suzuka, at Silverstone, and we have seen him, completely outperform the class he was actually in qualifying. But yeah, let's hope he can get the race pace together as well.
Well, an interesting split of strategy. Cohen Van Eyck currently sitting on pole with a 156.695. Merlin Cooper running a 157 flat. Cohen opted to come to the pits, reset, get a fresh set of tires, and go out for a second attempt, whereas Merlin has been continuing to make laps. Looks like he's currently on his third consecutive lap, not including, that is, his out lap. So, going to be interesting to see how the pace picks up or falls off for Merlin, as opposed to Cohen with the brand new tires. And interesting for the Pro-Am and Pro drivers, because they get to see the AM drivers be something of a guinea pig, so they know what they'll be able to know by the end of this session, or this part of the session anyway, exactly what the best strategy to do is.
Yeah, and actually the Pro-Ams have started to line up, and actually, because we're approaching that 16-minute to go mark, which has just ticked over, so they'll all be released, which means that this is do or die essentially for our RAM drivers. This is your final run. You will not get another chance. And Cohen looks a little bit slow actually coming out of Dunlop curve, and he's very wide. He has got the slipstream of a BMW in front of him, but he's pulled over. Clearly did not have a good run through the S's, and that will be his time of a 156.6. So it'll all be whether Merlin can go and beat that time. And actually, I think he might have just hit the line in time, so he will get to complete this lap, and that will maybe be our fight for pole. Interestingly, we have a big amount of Ferraris, I think, more than anything in the AM class, and Ferrari never really been too keen on the high-speed corners, so we'll have to watch as the Pro-Am qualifying goes, because that's a massive field within this class, within this grid, and maybe then we'll get a better idea of where the pecking order is in terms of car performance.
Now, taking a look here, it looks like the only AM driver to not attempt a qualifying lap was Thomas Kuhn in the number 379 V3 Racing Ford. That is, of course, one of the two Ford entries for V3 Racing, accompanying Mike Skeppers in the Pro class. So not sure if there will be a penalty there for not attempting a qualifying lap. Cohen Van Eyck's lap still stands currently with a 156.6. But we should expect to see some even better pace from the Pro-Am drivers who have just left the pits and are taking their outlaps.
As Merlin is still coming up into the final chicane, and it has looked fairly okay. He has been really pushing it out there. So it's going to be interesting to see if... No, he's pitting.
Oh, interesting. We have a Pro driver currently out qualifying right now. Or at least his car is marked as a Pro driver. Ben Goldie.
Ben is not a pro driver. I don't know why his would be marked as a pro car, but
Oh, that's a me mistake. That's not a. If you look at the numbers on you know, our overlay, it will say 247. So
yes, of course.
he's
So
a pro
that's
driver.
all right. So worth taking a note. Bengali in the Pro-Am class, not in Pro, contrary to what is currently on his car. As he comes across the line and heads into the turn 1 and 2 complex and has come around, will he disrupt any other laps? He has gotten out of the way and reset, so that was very good on him. He was quick to lock up the brakes and reset, so he'll have another chance to go out and make a lap, but he did not disrupt anyone else's lap, which I think was most important there.
But that will kind of disrupt the flow of qualifying for him, because now he's got to work out whether he can get this lap in and another one, or whether he leaves it later in the session, or whether he just wants to go out, set a time, and if he can't do another one, so be it. But it's not what you want. It's not really what you want in the first corner of your first flying lap to already be making a mistake. That will not be helping his confidence.
Especially when we are talking about, you know, the importance of the qualifying, because being behind the 8 AM drivers, you know, it takes quite a while to actually get through those guys and getting up to the pace. So if he's getting stuck behind there, that's gonna be a long evening for him then. So let's hope he can get out there and actually post a good lap time. Also, you know, when he's getting out there and posting lap times, some of the other drivers might have gone in and are on warm-up laps, so he could potentially get in trouble with the traffic, as I'm just watching Alex Smith has pulled over as well.
Yeah, he was clearly not happy with his lap. He wants to just go again. Have at it. It might be that whole fresh tyre situation.
Ooh, and Marvin Sluman as well have been off, and he's tonight driving the livery of shame, as he decided to change car like 2 minutes before the session went live. So that's why he's in the default livery.
And we have our first Pro-Am times across the line. We've got Cass Hugenhout, or Hout. Honestly, Cass, please tell me how to pronounce your name. I don't want to get it wrong.
As the livery of shame is in the wall.
Ooh, again.
Hard into that turn 1 wall. He did not make it.
And yeah, also following Cass is Philip Schiff, who were 2 people that we suspected might be quite quick in this category. And actually, Philip has made a mistake, got in that weight transition throughout the S's. The balance of the car has just shifted a little bit too much, and car has veered off into the barriers. One person we have not seen set a lap time was that man that we were talking about that looks the favourite to take the Pro-Am win, which is Craig Dancy. He's out on track at the moment, coming up towards the line. Will this be the end of a flying lap, or is this a start of one? By the looks of things, it might be the start.
It's start of one, yeah.
So we'll have to see in 2 minutes' time or so, because it's a very long lap for these GT cars, approaching 2 minutes, as to whether he will be able to get in front of Cass, or whether he'll be further behind, maybe even behind his teammate of Philip Schiff. Alpol doing well as on top of that, another Shizou driver in 3rd position, and a lot of our Pro-Ams have started to climb in front of the AMs, and as you mentioned, it is very important that, especially here, Niclas, that they out-qualify people in slower classes, because overtaking is, well, it comes at a premium at a track like Suzuka.
Oh, definitely. And we also have, I will just mention in P4, our Hello Kitty pink BMW. That's a color. That's a color. Of
it certainly is a
Selenev.
color. That is something I would use to describe it.
Yeah. I remember we have commentated on him in Formula 3, and there he's driving a creeper livery from Minecraft, and his helmet is a smiley, so that always creeped us out a bit. But Selenev, good to see him also actually performing in the GTs.
And he's pulled over at the side of the track. I don't think he has it quite enough time to go out and actually make it to the line again, because our pros will be released at 8 minutes to go, or 7, I think it's 8 minutes to go. It's always tricky as to when they line up versus when they go out, but I think it's with 8 minutes to go, so Alexei, I think, will struggle to set a lap time, to get onto his final flying lap, so that could be the last time he sets.
Stancy is
So-
just crossing the finish line and
Not quite
P2.
able to overtake Cass's lap.
Dancy has just gotten into P2 with a 155.4. So that's quite close up there.
Yep, it is the privateer driver, the Dutchman, Cass Hogenhout, currently on the pole, followed by the 254 car, Craig Dancy. That is the Team Shazoo Omega car, the driver hailing from Britain, and currently P3, Philip Schiff, also the teammate of Craig Dancy. So that Team Shazoo partnership showing some serious promise. Two of the top 3 spots here in qualifying.
Well, in fact, 3 of the top 5 spots shown by Shazoo, and actually Craig has made a massive mistake. Yeah, well, not a massive, but in terms of lap time, it would be pretty dire mistake in Degner 2. Just got way wide. I think that probably invalidated his lap, and he is not happy with himself because I think he knows that he had it in him to get pole. Still an improvement from last season where he qualified about 45th or something, so he could at least take solace in that. But further from that, I think he needs to hope that nobody really qualifies in between him and Cass, because there is only a 10th in between them. But with how close this field can be sometimes, you might find 4 or 5 drivers slotting their way in between the top 2 Pro-Ams.
Especially when you consider that Pro-Am is the middle of 3 classes in terms of speed generally. Pole and Pro-Am is typically towards the middle of the field, where we may see a lot of chaos, especially that first time through the S's. I would expect a lot of chaos there, as well as into the hairpin.
That hairpin is going to be very dodgy, especially with that kink before when you're under braking. The grass that's still not fixed. It still behaves like ice. Like it did last season. So if anyone gets on that grass through that kink, it is pretty much the end of whoever's on the apex of the hairpin at that point, because you just can't stop it, and they'll just get sent veering into the person on the apex like a wrecking ball. And there will
as
be
Philip Schiff has just
incident.
put in the fastest lap.
He's actually put it on pole. Only by 5 milliseconds, Schiff is ahead of Cass, and that puts the Shazoo cars 1, 3, and 4 at the top of the Pro-Am category.
As we are starting to see our pro drivers slowly creeping up and getting ready to go. These are the fast drivers. These are the top of it all. We will see some blending fast lap times, but also driving right on the edge. These drivers are driving, at 100% all the time. Otherwise, you won't compete in the pro class.
So Martin Nedelik, the Comrade Gaming White entry, the 188 car, he is currently entering the S's. He looks to be the first of the pro cars to be out on track. Has just taken his out lap and is now on his first flying lap. He's currently being chased by John Hallowell, the Venom Motorsport car, the British driver in that orange liveried BMW. Just behind them then is Alex Bennett, the teammate to Martin Nedelik in the 111 car, the Comrade Gaming Black BMW. So a lot of BMWs in the pro class. In our first race, we saw a lot of, not very many BMWs, as a matter of fact. So a lot of teams opting to change manufacturer. Among the BMWs also is Asger Hebsgaard in the 157 team question mark car. I believe that was a Porsche in our inaugural round in Imola. And also the favorite currently in the championship, Rainer Talvar, in the Radicals Online car. And he is just entering the spoon curve, and looks like he's gotten an off track perhaps there. Very wide on the exit.
That'll be very close. I think he might just get away with it. I was actually more concerned because it looked like the rear was about to snap away from him, but I think it looked calm behind the wheel, but the rear was just getting a little bit wayward. And so I was more concerned about him sending himself into the barriers. But Rainer's a very talented driver, so I think he'll have his off-tracks under control. And actually, he passed Asger Hepsgaard on the way down that straight, who was in a wall. He had set quite a slow lap because he started the lap about half a second behind Bennett. but was about a second behind when he had that crash. So, and Talbob decides to pit.
Yep, looks like he's going to be resetting, so we can assume that he did get an off track probably at the back end of that lap, assuming, especially considering he continued that lap, which was, I mean, using up valuable time, only just over 3 minutes now remaining in the qualifying session. These, of course, are the pro drivers, the final cars to qualify. If you're just joining me, my name is Brayden Hill. I'm joined by Niclas Domino, my producer and analyst, as well as James Clay, my co-commentator up here in the Apex Online Racing booth. Just a few more minutes, and we will be getting to the grid. Just finishing up our qualifying session right now. At the moment, Martin Nedelik sitting on pole as he resets his car, followed by Alex Bennett. That is another BMW, so BMW. From Ford, that is Andy Gorton in the baby blue and red Ford. I believe that is the heritage livery for the winning Ford GT. In the WEC, I believe that is.
Oh, yeah.
Fourth currently on the grid, Philip Schiff in the Team Shazoo Omega entry, as well as Cass Hoganout, who is in fifth place. That is a 155.3. So interesting, only the top 3 drivers right now are in the pro class. Schiff and Hoganout are both Pro-Am drivers rounding up the top 5.
But we did see a lot of the pro drivers actually make mistakes and abandoning their first lap. So I think we will see a change here, but also the top of the Pro-Am drivers have been mixing and mingling it with the pro drivers in the past. So it's gonna be interesting, but there's quite a few pro drivers out there who still needs to put in a good lap time.
One thing I was slightly surprised by is the amount of BMW dominance. I mean, I guess with just the amount of BMW cars we have on the field since it got its weight reduced, it's not a surprise to see so many of them up there. But personally, well, from what it looks like, it should be sort of a Porsche advantage with that S section at the start of the lap. BMW should still be a little bit strong, but Porsche should be very good. Ford will still be, as it is, very, very good over long distance races. And I mean, like I said earlier, mainly it's just the Ferrari that people are going to have to watch out for. It's going to wear its tires a bit more, get a bit hot, does not like those high speed sections that we have dotted all across the track here. So yeah, advantage to anyone who's not driving a Ferrari. Really.
As Van Booten is just getting off there, I was just following him along. He's a driver who really needed to put in a lap. I think, the reason why we see so many BMWs might be the round where people were able to switch cars. Last round with the when we went to Spa, and that might have been something to do with it. That
well,
it was
Spa is still
fine
a
around
BMW
there.
track, really. I mean,
No.
the BMW is all right in the middle sector, but the Ford and the Ferrari dominate those first and last sectors. But I think it's more comfortability. The BMW, like the Ferrari, is a very comfortable car.
Oh yeah,
the Ford
definitely.
and Porsche are a little bit more twitchy, especially on direction change. And I think, especially on a 1 hour 20 race, you kind of want the car that you're less likely to spin at. And that is an advantage somewhere like Suzuka, which is very tricky. I expect to see a lot of incidents, sort of self-driver errors, not really crashing into people, but just spinning off, getting on the grass, into a wall maybe, and that's what we had last time. And it's just because it's of the tricky high-speed nature of this track and all the grass as well, dotted around the edges of the racetrack.
Now, to remind those watching, on that topic we were just discussing, for those who do not know, these drivers are allowed after a BOP or balancer performance change from iRacing. These drivers are allowed to switch cars without any penalty. However, if they do decide that they want to change manufacturer, that is from BMW to Ford, for example, or any other change there, they lose all of their championship points. So basically forcing drivers to commit to a car. Also worth taking a look at, Martin Nedelik still out on track, so for some reason deciding that he did not feel comfortable sitting on that 154.926 that currently has him sitting on the pole, as at the last minute looks like Blair Mann has just come across the line to take P3. So
we have an
Comrade
issue for
Gaming.
Talvar.
Oh, is that so?
Talvar has invalidated his lap time in Spoon again.
Oh my goodness.
Again.
He came across the line. No lap time popped up on the board. So Talvar will be starting, at best, P37.
As Nader League has just improved his lap time. I think
So-
those are the all.
Well, in summary, there are, 5 drivers that did not opt to qualify or invalidated their laps. Martin Sluman in the 241, that is a Porsche. Thomas Kuhn, the V3 Racing Ford, the number 379 entry. Rainer Talvar, who we saw invalidating his lap at Spoon not once but twice. Isaac Jane in the 181, and Asger Hebsgaard. So a couple of favorites there. Rainer Talvar, clearly one of the favorites to win this race, and currently dominating the championship, and he's going to be starting at, like Nick said, at best in P37.
I mean, that we have 3 pros, and a pro-am and an am in that section there. And for those that don't know, when you do not qualify in iRacing, the order of the non-qualifiers is sorted by your iRating. So it will be likely, I don't actually know the exact iRatings of these drivers, but it's likely that the pro drivers will be gridded in front of the pro-am, who will be gridded in front of the am, which is Thomas Kuhn. So unless maybe Marvin has more iRating than one of the pros, for example, but that is likely to be what happens. So if on the grid sequence Talvar is 37, which he should be, that is the reason why.
Talvar has an iRating of 6,900. So
he's lost some. He was at
up there.
7K earlier.
Yeah.
Tut.
So just a couple seconds now, only 3 seconds till we will be opening up the grid, and that is officially the end of qualifying. Let's run you through our starting grid, if you're ready for that, Niclas.
Yeah, I will try and go through them without butchering a lot of names, but I will. So we have Nader League on pole with Alex Bennett P2 and Blair Mann in P3. Andy Gordon returning to the league and already showing that he has pace. Schiff in the Pro-Am pole. Hogano in P2 for the Pro-Ams on 6 overall. Halloway 7. Dancy P8. Edens P9. Shippers P10. He can't really be too pleased about that. He would want to be further up. Alpole in P11 and Nukinen in P12. We have Alex Schmidt P13, followed by Putin, Lagny, Sorensen, Edouard, Luca, Selenev, Veraboy, Lagny, Broomfield, Yardley, McKernan. And then we have in P25 the pole of the amps, Kern Van Eyck. Then we have Goldie, Matthias, Cooper, P2 on the amps, Garon, Ledato, Rice, Momano, Satos, Olden, Zazu. I'm not even gonna try that one. Polish driver. Talva, Jan, Hebsgaard, Sluman, and Combi at the end. That name there at the end with the our pole. I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna get that one right.
You need to go on Polish lessons.
Yeah, I probably should do that. Let's see if we can get this to work. Well, I think I got our Tino correct this time, at least. That's a lot of drivers, guys.
Well, we got 41 in the field, which for a track where GTEs aren't really too welcome.
I think we already have had our first incident. It looked like Blair Man just went on up behind our P2 man.
And that is... so Blair Man's got a lot of damage to his rear, and...
already some arguing on the radio.
Yeah.
A very slow start is Martin Nedelik is gone. big steps on the throttle, heading right into the Casio Triangle, and now will step on it, try to get as big of a lead as he can from his teammates Alex Bennett and Blair Mann. So Martin Nedelik will lead our field to the green, and now we have the official green flag heading into turn 1. Actually, that is Alex Bennett currently leading, so he has overtaken his teammate, Martin Nedelik, so that is 111 from 188, BMW from Ford, all Comrade Gaming entries. Andy Gorton, the second Ford in line there in the blue and red car. Philip Schiff just behind, under pressure from Cass Hoganout. Then John Hallowell. Actually, no, he's fallen back a little bit on the start there. And still, it is Bennett in the lead as they come through the Dunlop curve and head towards Degner curve. So this is going to be interesting. They seem to have single filed out. However, the trouble spot is still yet to come.
I think we're all through, aren't we?
I think we're all right
well,
now.
We're coming up to the hairpin now, which is where, if we're going to see any incidents. And actually, that's Lasse B. Sorensen making a lunge down the inside of Alex Schmidt into the hairpin. And he is not happy over the radio. I will not repeat what he's just said out loud. But it was not very fond of the move down his inside. Other than that, I don't see too many issues. They navigated it very cleanly. I am actually quite surprised by all of this. But yeah, no, just maybe a little bit of shuffling around. But apart from that pulling away from the grid sequence, most of that was fairly clean.
Very interesting. Worth maybe taking a look at the replay of that start, because Alex Bennett came across the line ahead of Martin Nedelik. So
it's not about the line; it's about the green. It's when the green flag shows.
Okay,
yeah.
So we shouldn't have any black flags from that. I did hear Alex make a comment on the radio. Just wanted to be sure that we haven't seen a penalty. Still, Comrade Gaming locking out the top 3, though. Blair Mann under pressure from Andy Gorton coming around the outside, coming into turn 1. A power move around the outside from that Ford EcoBoost number 185, and he will take 3rd position away, headed into the S's. Now they'll stay single file. We'll see if Blair Mann is able to make a move back, but it looks like Mann understeer seems to be the problem on that car. You can see him not quite able to round the corners quite as well as Andy Gorton is.
He's not going to have much downforce with the amount of damage he's got off that start, both front and rear, and he's probably just going to end up dropping backwards. And yeah, you spoke a bit too soon saying it was a Comrade 1-2-3 there, because just as you said it, Andy went diving right down the inside into turn 1.
And just as we have followed this battle, the battle for the lead with Bennett and Nedelik has just heated up quite a bit, with Bennett going a bit wide through turn 1, and Nedelik was actually almost overtaking, but it's going to be interesting to see if these two can just now calm down and just get away from the pack.
So currently 1-2 BMW.
Ooh, as we have Mamano off, we have Daniel Mamano. Ooh, he got hit a little bit from behind there, going into the hairpin. That's a pro driver, I think. That
is Am.
Yeah, but it was a pro driver who hit him, and that's. I think he's fairly lucky not hitting the wall there, but that will be. He will be a bit angry there. Yeah,
that's the man you're
yeah.
looking for.
That was the one. As he's looking to put Cohen Van Eyck under a lot of pressure. It's going to be interesting to see if Van Eyck is just going to let him pass. Ooh, as we have another.
Smoking 130R. That looks like a Comrade car. Is that right? I can't quite tell. It was a Comrade car involved. I didn't know if it was Blair Mann struggling with more issues.
But Blair Mann is definitely. Blair Mann is following down the order now. He's P16. Let's see if we can find out what has happened to Mr. Mann. As Alex Bennett is. It was Alex Bennett who was off there. Oh my
Blair Mann
goodness.
currently under pressure from the car behind, which is Steven Broomfield, V3 Racing Purple, the German driver. That is a Pro-Am driver currently putting pressure on Blair Mann. That is a Ferrari chasing the Ford. So no Ferraris, it looks like, in the top 10. It looks like it's currently dominated by Fords and BMWs.
Alex Bennett is listed as in the pits. Yes, he is. So he might have actually had a penalty for
Oh,
that
yeah.
start incident because
Yeah, he went into the pits.
He had to take a pit stop there, so yeah, he is not. I don't think the Comrade drivers are very happy at their teammate right now, the pole man Martin Naderleek, because Blair has got front and rear damage. Martin's got damage himself. Alex has got a penalty, so that start could not go any worse for the Comrade trio up front. And from that, also Blair man, what happened to him was he spun on the entry grasses. Actually, that is a BMW spun around in Spoon Corner just in front of Blair. That's Alex Schmidt, who's had incidents. I said that there were going to be a lot of driver mistakes, and well, they're already proving me correct so far on lap 3. And Alex is now fallen down to, I believe that's 23rd position, so he is going to have to start making his way back up through the field, but that is a tough task at Suzuka.
Ooh, as we have another one off. It's our one of the Carbon Esports guys. And what happened here? Party. We just went a bit wide. Just got the tires stuck on the curb and hit the wall. And I think that's the over for him.
The auto spin curb of 130R that is plagued a lot of people in the official races during the week, and it is pretty much the curb of death out there. So Patrick hitting that and has now returned to the pit lane.
And this is gonna be interesting just to see, you know, that now we might get a bit of, you know, calm down guys and just get a couple of laps in. At the moment, P3 overall is actually our Pro-Am leader. A lot of the pro drivers seem to have a bit of an issue, as our lead commentator is having an issue of himself with his CPU. Ooh, as Timo was just having a dive bomb on Hallowell, and Hallowell did not look to be too happy about that. Optimistic maneuver.
Jordan Lacey as well. Alex Schmidt on the inside of Degner 1. Jordan runs and gets rear-ended by Alex Schmidt, and once again I will not repeat what he said over the radio, but I will tell you it would require a bleep machine. But he was not happy with the rear-ending there into the wall, into Degner 2, and he has also returned to the pit. My dear me, we have got a high attrition rate race here, because it is just so treacherous to survive this track for 80 minutes in a GT car. The grass will send you off into the wall, so you've got to put your car pinpoint accuracy across the circuit. Otherwise, you will make a mistake and you will get punished for it.
Oh, definitely. And as I'm just looking at the Talva coming up to the field, he's now at P21, but that Ford looks to be very much on the edge. And yeah, we have seen a lot of incidents. We might be seeing more here.
And actually, he's going to send it on Alex Schmidt there into turn 1. Maybe perhaps it looked a little bit orchestrated. I don't really know what's going, whether it was or not, but Alex didn't really fight it very much at all. So Talvar still half a second off the pace of the leaders at the moment. So he's really going to need to start putting in some mega lap times if he's going to have any chance of extending his championship lead here today.
As we have had a switch for the lead in Pro-Am, it's now Cass who is taking over the lead from Philip Schiff, who is looking to have a bit of damage. He was one of the guys who was in that incident at the beginning that we were talking about. And
Philip has formed a very large train behind him while he was leading there, so unfortunately for him, I think he's going to start falling backward very quickly. Next up on the list is his teammate Craig, so I don't think he's going to fight that one too hard. He's probably going to have to let Craig...
Oh,
he's definitely not fighting it that hard, but he's fighting his car a little bit. Keeps it running, and actually that's a Venom car of John Halliwell that's tried to take avoiding action, but has gone off into the gravel, and he's going to have to try and rejoin him.
Made contact with the wall there.
Yeah.
Still stopped right on the side of the track. Not sure if he's just waiting to rejoin or if he's planning to reset. That is the 103 car.
I think that might be...
He's just sitting there.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if he's planning to reset, perhaps some sort of equipment failure, or if he's just sitting, just frustrated. But he's just letting the entire field go by. Now he's rolling. Staying to the right side, a very safe re-entry.
He was actually very lucky. He got very close to the wall, but he was just millimeters away from making contact. So he'll be counting his lucky stars at that one, and he's got away. Well, not scot-free because he's lost about a million positions and is now.
Sorry, as Timo Nukkinen just went on the outside into the start of the S's on Mike Shepard's. That was a good move, and is now what, P3 on in the pros? Yeah, and
yeah,
P5 overall.
Yeah. Well, here's the crazy thing: is the AM
podium.
Yeah, right. The AM lead, the battle for the AM lead, is 3rd and 4th overall. So that's Cass Hogenow and Craig Dancy. Of course, we said at the beginning of the broadcast, Craig Dancy was going to be somebody to take a close look at and keep an eye on. Currently putting pressure on the 250 of Cass Hogenow. That is I believe that's a Comrade Gaming entry, currently leading the Team Shazoo Omega entry. Both BMWs. And they qualified 6th and 8th on the grid, respectively. So each of them making some pretty significant gains.
Oh, and that's Andy Gordon. Andy Gordon.
Yeah, he's off.
So that puts the Pro-Am drivers P2 and 3 overall.
P2 and 3. That's incredible. Big mistake from Andy Gorton. I did see smoke in the corner of the screen just before seeing that. So the leader, Martin Nedelik, is running away.
Oh, and Dancy spun in 130. Yeah, he's got on the auto spin curve, which has put him sideways. So now Cass,
reversing back, trying to get back on the track is the 254 of Dancy. We were talking about how he had some pro-level pace, but now he's going to have to drive through the entire field. And the Pro-Am leader, Cass Hogenow, has a massive lead over Philip Schiff. That is about 5 seconds between the two, and several positions between them.
Yeah, I don't see Philip making really much of a challenge because he's just got so much damage to the front of his car. So Cass will kind of be going into slightly calmer mode now because he's not got much pressure. He has got to worry a little bit about Tino Nakuden and behind him. Obviously, F1 esports driver making a transition over to iRacing at the moment. Didn't have that much pace back in Imola, didn't attend in Spa, but clearly got some pace here at Suzuka and is looking like he could challenge, especially for a podium. Maybe for the lead, it depends what he'll do in terms of pace now that they're all sort of lapping in clean air. See how he can pass Cass and also whether he can break away from Mike Scapers behind, because Mike is...
Oh, as Dan Alpol has been off. As Dan Alpol has been off.
Not going well for the Shazoo cars, and actually that was a car spinning in front of him as well. Who was that? That's Alex Schmidt, I think. That is, yeah, he's made contact with Dan as he's been parked at the side of the racetrack. So
yeah.
That has not been good for Alex and Alex's return to the pit. So we said there were going to be mistakes, and oh boy, are there mistakes happening. It is not easy.
Ooh, as Van Eyck has been off as well. Van Eyck, Colin Van Eyck, our pole sitter in AM, and he has had not one of the greatest races. Ooh, he's just getting bit too. Yeah, that was never gonna work there.
Battle for the podium overall. Mike Skeppers and Tino, as we call him affectionately, is how damn difficult his last name is to pronounce. But that's going to be heating up. Mike Skeppers in the slipstream of Tino, and he's looking like he wants to take that position. But while they're battling, Cass Hogenow in the Pro-Am lead is trying to run away as far as he possibly can go, trying to ride off into the sunset from them. But it looks like they are closing the gap despite battling.
Broomfield and Sorensen are side by side into turn 1, and there were a bit of contact and quite a lot of aggressive defending from Lasse Sorensen.
So that his rear end just doesn't look like it can survive the S's, but somehow he's making it work. It pitched in to the first left, and I just thought he was about to spin. Honest to God.
Yeah, almost looked like he was trying to do an initial D impression there. That is the battle for P11 between Sorensen and Broomfield. Sorensen has it, Broomfield wants it. That's two Ferraris in the Pro-Am class currently battling. To update, on the battle between P3 and 4 overall. There is a bit of a gap there, so Tino able to take a bit of a breath, but I would assume not for long. The Fords seem to be struggling a little bit in the high-speed corner areas. A lot of understeer, it looks like, in those particular areas that could be set up or that could be a car, but it looks like the BMWs have been performing much better in those
Where's
areas.
Brofield is off. Ooh, and he's just saved it. That battle for him and Sørensen
Nearly
has just
contact
been
with Salvar.
gone on.
Brayden
Yeah.
Salvar in the
Oh
middle
my
of that, currently
goodness.
in a drag race with 2 V3 racing cars right behind him. That's Kiefer McKenna and Stephen Broomfield side by side behind him. Broomfield trying to defend against Salvar. Salvar will launch it around the outside. Launched it around the outside. So did that's McKenna behind, who nearly did the exact same thing and followed him off the track.
Ooh, Selenev is just taking the outside into the chicane. He didn't get the best exit there, but an opportunistic move that he needed to take. The battle is
Salvar
definitely
pretty-
going on in the middle of the field.
Talvar pretty excited about that one on the radio. Broomfield not quite as enthusiastic about it, but Talvar continuing his march to the front. So he's now P13, and that's going to be good news for him. Especially good news for him is how well the Pro-Am drivers have been performing, because that means that as he marches towards the front, he is, in terms of the points, not having to make up quite as much to the pro drivers because of poor performances, of drivers such as Alex Bennett, who's now towards the back of the field, John Hallowell, also towards the back, as well as Patrick Patowski, all in the back. Asger Habsgaard, who did not qualify, all the way up to P24 right now. That is the team question mark Ford.
Ooh, Talvar's just diving in and trying to get the... that's Robert Award?
Like watching a bull in a China shop.
But he did lock up his wheel, and that's not something that you really want. He had a big lock up going into the hairpin, trying to get past Edward there. And
yeah, they got to be mindful of that. You don't want to overheat those front tires. And it looks like he's off track again in Spoon, so that's definitely not Talvar's strongest area of the track.
You can be on that green if the middle part of your car is on that green AstroTurf in between the off track and the curb. I don't believe that is worthy of an off track. But Talvar's running it's millimeter perfect pretty much, so he's going to be very careful. And that is not what you want to do. That is getting very unsettled on the exit curve of 130R, and that will have given him an off track because he did get slightly too wide, and he's got to be careful because he is. I'm actually going to check now. He's on to 7 instant points already, and we're only on lap 10. We've still got another 32 to go after this one, and he's at a good pace. He set a faster lap time than the leaders last time around, and he had to make an overtake into the hairpin. Let's not forget with that. So he's got pace. He just needs to make sure that he can avoid drive-throughs or even disqualification.
And while
we've just had Alex Schmidt disconnect, so he has retired the car.
Oh damn, yeah. But as Talvar also won, he at the moment just want to get a new set of pants because that was a code brown right there.
I believe he has made sure to let everyone else know to bring their brown pants. I think he's pretty confident, but Sorensen's going to have to be ready to wear his brown pants into the hairpin because I expect quite a send from Talvar.
Yeah, he's not going to
get a big run already.
Yeah,
Sorensen better just give it up. He doesn't have a chance.
No, wise move to just back out of that. He's not fighting Talvar. Talvar's fighting for the Pro Championship. I mean, just when a man has not qualified and he's fighting for the Pro Championship, you get out of his way.
Yeah.
Pretty much. You don't fight that because I believe he said in chat something at the start of the race along the lines of basically, if you're in my way, I'm coming through. Before the race in chat, so he is very clearly in a case of don't get in my way, and if you do, I will basically send it, and it will kind of be on you to get out of my way.
It's a risky thing.
It is a risky thing, but sometimes at a track like Suzuka, you have to do it because they're not gonna. A lot of the time,
there's so few braking zones, so few passing zones,
and they're not going to just lift off the throttle and let you through. You're going to have to put them in a position where you're side by side, and they're going to have to decide that they don't want to fight you. But they're not going to just get out of your way. And so especially somewhere like here, so you just have to get alongside and just say, do you want to fight me? Because you're not going to get anything if you do. So just get out of my way.
Now let's take a look at Cass Hogan out. He was P3, was P2 even, although he has been passed by Tino and now Mike Skeppers, and now is under pressure from Andy Gorton, who made a mistake earlier. He was the P2 driver in that Ford, so the Pro-Am driver currently conceding to the pace of the Pro drivers. That's 3 Fords in a row overtaking the BMW, so Ford seeming to have some pretty good long-run pace, and a really, really impressive outing from Cass so far tonight.
As we are already seeing some drivers pitting. That now, James, you are our pit guy here. That might be a bit early, isn't it?
It's a tiny bit early. I think I said last week that the kind of the golden number is around half an hour. So, I mean, you can pit. I think the pit window is open, sort of now to do 2 stops to the end of the race. You will probably just make it, but it's kind of a case of if you're pitting right now, it's because you've got damage or something that needs fixing. You're not pitting now really for strategy, because you're not going to gain anything from not going longer. You want to try and save a bit of fuel and have some low fuel laps and try and get people that way. I mean, you can, if they're really holding you up, like I'm talking a second and a half a lap holding you up levels, then you can undercut, but otherwise it's not going to help you, especially if you then hit and get put further back in the pack and got even more traffic that's even slower than what you were behind before. And actually, Craig Dancy, who we saw fall back and thought might be very quick, is sending it down the inside of the Casio triangle on Kiefer McKenna there. He's lapping a second off the pace of what he was doing in clean air before. So he's really being hindered, and he might have to think about some sort of alternate strategy to get him up to the front.
But he has
that's the only chance he has now of a podium, especially when you look at the number of cars ahead. On sheer pace, I don't see any way that he could go from P16 up to the podium.
Well, he is just passed
for the Pro-Am, sorry,
yeah,
because of what he did last season. I don't know if Nick remembers, but I certainly do, because we were kind of worried there was going to be a bit of a boring Suzuka race, and then everyone started crashing, and Craig went, I'm going to overtake everybody. So we actually had some entertainment from him, but he's one of the few magicians that seems to find overtaking opportunities around here, as does Talvar, as we've already seen, who's up to
P11?
To P11 at this point in the race, so, and has already almost got up to his next victim. And that is a pro driver, so Talvar's up to 9th in the pro category, which is two championship points, but he's already now finding other people to take points off of.
Victim is definitely the right word to describe the people who Rainer is passing.
Oh, definitely.
You better get out of the way. You better run. You can't hide. You can run. You certainly can't hide from Talvar right now. But it seems like running isn't quite working.
Well, he also lapping 8/10 faster than the guys in front, so yeah, definitely. But Craig Dancy's, he's just past McKern and Silenev as well, and he's looking to battle up there. I don't think we've seen the last of him, as he's actually trying to get Lagny into 130R here.
Yeah, him and Lanny's good friends off the racetrack, so I didn't expect Tom to fight that one too. Excuse me, sorry. Too hard on the racetrack, so lets him through. Dancing up into the top 15 now, but I think less compliance will be found in front of him from Brumfield, Edouard, and Sorensen, because those are Pro-Am drivers that will be fighting him for championship points. I think if I was them, I still would let him go because of the fact that I know he's much faster than me, but it's kind of a case of, like I said earlier, if he pulls alongside, you back out of it, but otherwise you just continue on with your race.
Yeah.
Battle between damaged cars just ahead of Talvar on the track. That's Blair Mann trying to pass Philip Schiff. That is not for positioning class. Blair Mann in the Pro Class, Schiff in Pro-Am. It was interesting. Blair was just under the gearbox of Schiff going into turn 1, but through the S's, presumably because of the damage he had, Blair fell off the back of him significantly. Big front end damage to the front of the BMW Philip Schiff, that blue Team Shazoo Omega car. Blair Mann, as we noted at the beginning of the race, having contact potentially with his teammates, has given him damage on both ends of the car. And just behind him, is Rainer Talvar's next victim in the 172 car, that green and black carbon esports car.
You're also trying to avoid the Polish names.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Ooh.
That's Talvar looking to the inside. He's going to try to get the slipstream on the 172. That's BMW versus Ford, Pro versus Pro. We'll see if Talvar is able to maintain that gap. See if he'll send it to the inside. Nope, he thinks better of it. Very intelligent driving from Rainer Talvar, though he looks like he's going to try and whip it around the outside, gets to the inside, and sends it into turn 16. And he will be clear to have a good exit coming back onto the pit straight, and sets his sights now on the 119 of Blair Mann just ahead, who is kind of being held up by Philip Schiff. The pace of the 119 has been significantly better than that BMW ahead of him. We'll see if Blair Mann is able to send it up the inside. He shows the nose, trying to let Philip know that he's there. Now he's to the inside, side by side, coming through turn 2. Will he be able to make the pass? Looks like Philip will have the preferred line, but he lets off, and Rainer Talvar takes advantage. He's going to come to the outside, into what's now the inside, and not quite clear of the BMW, so he will lose a little bit of time to Blair Mann, but that's another free position to Rainer Talvar.
Ooh, Lasse Sørensen is off, sorry. He was off into turn 1. What has happened to Sørensen here? Ooh, he's tried to defend from Edouard, and
he's reset.
And that
was a podium. That was a podium position.
But just looking at the replay, that was maybe a bit too much of a defense from Sørensen. He just didn't really leave room for Edouard to get into turn 1.
Talvar with a big move on the inside of Blair Mann and nearly makes contact. Nearly contact between the two Fords. Blair Mann fighting back on the inside.
Talvar will, Blair Mann will have the preferred shorter line, but Talvar will have the inside 4-spoon corner, and I think Blair, gives that one up. He's just such a crippled car there with all of the damage he's got to the rear and front, that he's wounded and is kind of on damage limitation mode. And maybe he can use Talvar to tow him along, because he will be losing a lot of time on the straights with that much damage, but also through the corners with the balance shift that presumably would happen with losing so much rear downforce. His rear wing and diffuser are all just, I mean, I don't think anyone would remotely call that straight. So he's just got to hope that maybe that is his last chance of getting some extra pace on the board, because he's lapping a second slower than his team out in front, and that is just not what you want when you qualified right at the front, P3 on the grid, and look to maybe challenge for a podium by the end.
And the march to the front for the Radicals Online Ford number 121 of Rainer Talvar continues all the way up to P8 after qualifying in the 37th position. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I think we should start him in the back every single race, because this has been some of the most entertaining racing. He's been throwing it up the inside. I mean, he made that big move on Blair Mann, and the hairpin locked it up and nearly made contact. So despite even making a slight mistake, the skill of the driver behind the wheel of that Ford GTE, very evident, clearly evident in the way that he's been able to control that car. That I mean, the Ford is certainly not the most stable of the manufacturers. So I mean, clearly he's got the speed and is proving his dominance in this championship, because I don't see anything that makes a bigger statement of, I want this championship, it is mine, and you are going to have to pry it out of my hands if you want that trophy, than driving through the entire field at a track like Suzuka that has so few braking and passing zones.
Yeah, no, I was really impressed with the move on Schiff, because it just showed how switched on he was. Blair took the move and he lifted off of that, and Talvar went, I'm going to take that move as well, and I think that just shows why he's leading this championship.
Oh, definitely. But, you know, I'm not sure if you're asking the rest of the field if they want Talvar from the behind every time. I'm not sure, you know, he has done some pretty aggressive driving out there. And
if he hasn't hit anyone.
No, well,
he's on the right side of aggression.
That's true. Well, not
there
what we
are
have
two
seen.
sides to the line of aggression. There's the dangerous. It's a very fine line. There's the line between dangerous aggression and just that right amount, where they don't want to basically get too involved with you, because that's the thing. Battling people is also a psychological game, and if you can get in their heads and basically say, do you really want to crash with me? Because you're kind of going to be in a position where you might end up doing that. I think it's better for you if you back out. You don't have to actually, therefore, really fight too hard with people. They'll just get out of your way. And you don't have to do that much, like, dangerous or aggressive driving. You just have to make them think that you might.
It's almost a game of chicken. Who has the bigger brass?
Yeah, yeah, too. But also just an update on our Pro-Am. Dancy has just completely eliminated every obstacle in front of him and is now seeing himself in P3 in the Pro-Ams. He's now P12 overall and is now setting his sight on Philip Schiff, who is about 5 seconds up the road.
He's 13 seconds off the lead of Pro-Am. So, I mean, that's still a hefty margin to overturn, but it's possible.
So to be fair, the lead in Pro-Am is Cass Hogenhout, who is 5th overall. There are only 4 pro drivers ahead of him, and I mean, he's clearly showing the pace similar to these pro drivers. He's outrunning Michael Edens, he's outrunning Van Putten. Several pro drivers, to be fair, have had problems in this race, but Cass Hogenhout just showing, I mean, that's quite a statement, in my opinion.
Yeah, indeed. We've looked talking about all these people fighting through the field, and someone we kind of haven't talked about is Alex Bennett, who will have had, I believe it's a 40-second penalty for overtaking before the start. So he's lost essentially 40 seconds from this race, and is would be 26 behind, but obviously that's to do with battling and stuff. So, I mean, it's not been the best fight through the field, but I mean, he's had to overtake literally everybody. And
Selenev has been off, sorry.
Yeah, and now that's Alpol sending it down the inside. But yeah, and actually we've got pit stops going on.
Got a big group, yep.
Yeah, there's our half-an-hour mark, just about 32 minutes in. So
V3 Racing teammates. V3 Racing teammates are in. That is a Comrade Gaming Ford that's in. I'm not sure which car that is. That is
Goldie.
That is Goldie. Yes, it is. Dan Alpol. I'm not sure if that's a glitch on my end, but it looks like Dan Alpol has no front end on that Team Shazoo, that blue Team Shazoo BMW. So both of the Team Shazoo BMWs with damage on the front, as we see a few cars coming out. The V3 Racing teammates will come out together, just behind the Porsche 911 of, who is that just ahead of them? That is Roberte Edward, just ahead. We haven't talked about him recently. From the Sim Racing Channel team. That black car with some rather bright accents. Currently 18th overall, that is.
Yeah, and he was P4 in the Pro-Am class, and interesting to see if he might have sustained a little bit of damage after his slight love tap to Sorensen, who defended aggressively into turn 1, and but good to see him actually being up there and fighting for the higher places. But I think that the top 3 is just too damn fast in that class. They're just in a bit of a league of their own.
So our leader, Martin Nedelik, is first in the pits of the leaders. Tino is behind him. Andy Gorton is behind him. Cass Hogenhout's come in. Michael Edens, Van Putten, and Talvar. So all of the top 7. Looks like Blair Mann is in. So basically all of the pro drivers are coming in at once. We're going to see hopefully no mistakes by any of these drivers. I don't expect to see any tire stops, so it should be fuel only for these cars. And Nedelik is out. Nedelik is already out of the pits. That is our pole sitter from the lead, so he had that great position exiting the pits. And I mean, he is far and away out ahead of the field.
As Gordon has taken Tino in the pits.
So Tino a little bit slow on the pits.
Well, is that the Andy Gorton underfill?
It is the Andy Gorton underfill.
Yeah,
it
the
is
patented Andy Gorton underfill.
Yeah.
Which is what he likes to do in this first pit stop, where he takes a bit less fuel, tries to get some clean air, some track position, and then kind of run a faster stint so that when he puts more fuel in the next stop, he comes back out in front of the person he's overtaken. And actually that lap traffic kind of helping him a little bit. Tino didn't really seem to know what they were doing behind. I think that was Steve Olden. He was just... Oh, okay.
I mean, Talvar has 2 victims just ahead of him. So he closed the gap significantly to the cars that were ahead of him. Right now, he has Arjan Van Putten ahead of him. And who is that just ahead of him?
Mike
the Venom
Leedens.
car. That is
Mike Leedens.
Edens. Yes, that is
Yeah.
Michael Edens. Oh, Talvar
he's
with the move
ending
up
it.
the inside already. Didn't lock up that time. That was a clean move. Very late, but a clean move still. So we're going to see... I think we should just follow along Rainer Talvar as he makes his move through the field here. That is Van Putten, the next car ahead of him. The Ford from Comrade Gaming Teal, the Dutch driver, just ahead of Talvar.
Ooh, as Tino has been off.
Tino's gone off. Tino's gone off. Big
That
mistake from him.
Yeah,
That puts
big
Hogan
off
out
in
back on the
running.
podium. That puts Hogan out back on the overall podium.
We'll have to see how things cycle through strategies and whatever, but yeah, that puts him up there in the top 3 overall, so strong running. Have to see if he can keep it, because obviously he has got to worry about Talvar making his way through the field, and I feel like that's something you always have to worry about if he's behind you, so...
He looks like he's about ready to make a move into turn 1 on Van Putten. The question is, will Van Putten fight him or let him go? Looks like Van Putten might just let off the throttle there, that Comrade Gaming car. A blink of the lights from Rainer Talvar as that traffic coming out of the pits, and Talvar sends it up the inside coming into turn 1, and he is clear going into turn 2, so he will have relatively clean air coming through the S's, turns 3 through 7. Now entering 3 to the right in 4, heads back left in 5 in just a moment's time, and then the very long turn 6, you have to be very patient coming through this corner, make sure you don't compromise your exit speed, and then to turn 7, which is vitally important to get a good run out of there, because it goes to the Dunlop curve, and you're flat out through this entire section before pitching it to the right in turn 8, and Talvar just makes it look so easy.
Talvar
So
P4. This is ridiculous. He's actually on the
next person
podium
to-
at the moment.
Yes, he's on the pro class podium right now, and the next car he has to overtake is Cass Hoganout. A strong showing from that Pro-Am driver currently on the overall podium. Andy Gorton just a little bit ahead of him. I do think, though, as fast as Rainer is, I'm not sure he's 20 seconds fast to catch up to Nedele. But, I mean, can you imagine coming through the entire field, Rainer Talvar all the way through the field, flashing the lights at that lap traffic ahead of him? I mean, what a story that would be to see the Radicals Online Ford come from 37th up to the lead.
I mean, it would... I mean, it just... That might be the championship-worthy performance if he manages to pull it off. I can see Talvar kind of getting within that sort of 7-second window, which is the kind of window where you're like, so Martin, if you make a spin, I will be right there, and you better not spin or get on the grass or make any really major mistake, because I will be there to capitalize on it. And that's kind of sometimes if you can't catch them, what you've got to do is you've got to at least get close. You can't just give up. You have to basically say, if they make a single error, and this is Suzuka, so there is a very high chance of something like that happening, even to anyone, no matter where you are, especially after 80 minutes of tyre wear, that there could be a spin in 130R, there could be a lock-up in the hairpin that sends him straight on, there could be a missing of the braking point in spoon that just loses you enough time that then you're right back on his gearbox, and now he's worried because now he can see you, and that's always the scariest part. Lap
traffic as well, and Timo Nukkinen has just overtaken Van Putten into turn 1. That was just a normal, going up to the inside and saying, here I am, just, you can't be here anymore. Let me pass.
Ready or not, here I come.
Yeah, but he will be a bit angry with himself with having that mistake, because he was just right up there fighting with Gordon, and is now looking to P4 and overall. But then again, sometimes you might just take what you get and be there for next week. But Talvar has just been in a league of his own today.
Something to take note of: a shift forward for basically the entire field. Mike Skeppers seems to have had a little bit of an incident with the grass, spun out, and decided to retire the car, so that was yet another position in favor of Talvar, one less that he has to take on his own. As we know the pace of Skeppers, it would have been a tough pass, but Talvar just proving his dominance here, even despite some of the handouts he's gotten, as he's now getting very close to Hogan within drafting distance, slipstream distance, just over a second gap there as they head into the turn 1-2 complex, and we'll see if Talvar is able to close in through the S's. He gets closer still. I mean, that's so impressive because with the huge hole in the air that these cars punch, the disturbance, the dirty air, it's almost impossible to get downforce in the front of the nose of the car if you have someone ahead of you, especially something as wide as the double wide booty of that BMW M8 GTE. So Rainer just proving how dominant that car is. Now the question is, could it be set up? I mean, obviously his driving talent speaks for itself, but I mean, worth thinking about is how much potentially his setup could have factored into this, because we have a pretty solid variety of manufacturers up at the front. BMW leading Ford, leading BMW, leading Ford again. So the Ford obviously strong, but I mean, Rainer is in a class of his own.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, when he's actually got a very good run coming down out of Spoon, will he challenge into 130? Or he's at least giving it a look, and Cass has decided you're in a different class. I mean, as much as I enjoy my overall podium, there's no point. You'll get past me at some point, so...
That's heads-up driving from the Pro-Am driver.
That's the way to keep your Pro-Am win and all your points, and that's exactly what you should do, really. I mean, because Talvar will get past at some point, and you know it, and at least just do it without any risk, and so...
And talking about the Pro-Ams, as Philip Schiff has just been spinning off, Craig Dancy's now P2 in the Pro-Ams. Philip Schiff just hitting the curb just a little bit too aggressive, and it just sent his car into spin, and he has now lost that position.
So
his teammate had to get very close right there because of the avoiding action that Dancy had to take, and there was a lot of exchange in the voice chat. I couldn't quite hear what they said, but I believe it was something along the lines of like, "You're welcome" or something to Craig, because obviously Craig was catching up to Philip and trying to get past him at some point, and he's basically handed that position to his teammate anyway.
I mean, Craig's pace, though, has been extraordinary, especially considering he was sideways not too long ago, broadside across the track. Luckily, didn't get any damage from that, just a self-spin, but now all the way back up into P2 in class. So that's an impressive performance from the Team Shazoo BMW.
Yeah, just checking his gap to Cass has come down from 13 to 11 seconds, so... He is making grounds. I don't think it's quite quick enough, but like I said with the whole Rainer Martin thing, it's one of those ones where if you make a mistake, I will be there kind of situations, and so although it might seem that he can't get there on pace, you've still got to give it everything and just give it a chance, because there is just that possibility that he makes the same mistake Dancy did. He runs on that exit curve with some dead tires in 130R and spins across the track. Then it's pretty much game on at that point. They've lost roughly the same amount of time, so at that point it's just down to who had the quicker race apart from those incidents.
A driver who's also really pushing it out there is Asger Hepscott, who just were nearly going into the back of the Carbon Racing 172 car, and he's looking to be really... Oh, and is he sending it? Almost contact.
Nearly contact.
He also just a couple of laps before sending it and overtaking Robert Edward, and he wasn't really pleased with that, and he just seems to be really aggressive out there. As
actually,
defending
is not very happy with the way Asger's going about things, and I think it's very overly aggressive.
He's punted him off the track. He's just punted him off the track, completely sent him across. Will he make contact? He continues going straight, gets back on the track ahead of Hebsgaard. Hebsgaard now going around the outside. Will there be any contact? No retaliation from the 172. Classy
I
racing
think the
there, but
172
Headsguard's going to have...
There was
did he-
had a slowdown, I think, so that's why he had to basically slow down and give the position. But
Oh,
he
that's
is
some heavy
not
flashing
happy,
go
and I
there.
think
Flashing
justifiably.
lights. Oh,
Justifiably
absolutely.
so. And actually, there goes Absger getting sideways through Degner too. This is going to give the 172 a massive run going into there. But still,
He's trying to send it around the outside.
Well, he's trying to
Not
do a
quite
switch
side by
back.
side.
No, he runs deep. Can't get
Yeah, that was
it
a little
there. Can't
steep.
get it turned in. Can't get it rotated. So he's
That
gonna
was a
have to see
bit
if he can
over
fight it back.
enthusiastic. A little
That
bit
might
of
get settled in the steward's
over-enthusiastic.
room, actually.
I will be keeping an eye on that. That was an aggressive move. But take a look at the grid positions. Asger started in 39th. He did not qualify, so that is a huge gain from the 157 team question mark BMW. He's making almost as good of a comeback through the field as Rayner has made. So,
Yeah,
gonna
I
be
mean,
questionable.
He's about double the way off the lead that Rayner is, so I don't think he's got half the talent, but I'm just saying that's in time-wise, that's where he is. And it's still a tremendous thing to be able to come from 39th up into 12th already. And we're only sort of at the halfway stage of this race, but yeah, Rayner, like you said earlier, is in a league of his own, and Asger, we talked about that fine line between aggressive driving and dirty driving, and I think at the moment Asger's getting very close to leaning to one side of that line, and he kind of needs to rein it in, because although you can kind of get the red mist when you've qualified so far down, you just need to be a little bit restrained, not punt people off the track, and just try and get past them without punting.
Oh, sorry, as Kern Fanatic has just been having, his day going from bad to worse, and has just hit the wall into the hairpin and reversed back onto the car. Yeah, and that's kind of what Fanatic has had over the last couple of seasons. He has had, great qualifying, but horrendous races, and we see that here today as well.
Well, to take a quick step back, to your point, James, that you were making earlier, the difference, that fine line between positive aggression that we've seen from Rayner Talvar and negative aggression that we've seen now from Asger Headsguard. I mean, I was just watching, and Taze is still flashing him on the entry to the hairpin, so clearly very, very frustrated, but great self-control from the Carbon Esports driver to not retaliate. That was very intelligent. You can flash all you want. I think it's rather justified. Maybe after a couple laps that's enough, but
he's not allowed to flash. We do actually have a rule in the league. I don't know if they have changed it lately, but you're actually not allowed to flash your headlights unless it's lap traffic. So he needs to be careful, otherwise he might get a penalty himself as well. It's fine,
especially
to
if
say.
he wants the result on the stewards panel from Asger's offense. He definitely doesn't want to have anything on his own record for the stewards to look at.
Definitely. One thing to be looking out for as well is Dancy is at the moment at 17 incidents. So one more, and that's a trip to the box. And he doesn't
half an hour without touching a single blade of grass, basically.
Yeah, and I think that might also be why we are not seeing him really being overly aggressive.
Actually,
against Putin.
He's 4 seconds behind Cass now. Something's happened to Cass because...
Yeah, Cass had a bit of an off in turn 1, and lost a bit of position to Edens and Nuganen.
But he has a little bit of room for error given the lead that he has over Philip Schiff, though that is closing. Kaz that last time around was 25.5 seconds back from our leader Martin Nedelik, whereas Schiff was about 34.5 seconds back. So around about 20 seconds, he's got good breathing room, and that was Craig Dancy.
Ooh,
Craig Dancy's around. He's around right in front of.
Van Putten was off. Adam Van Putten was off.
Oh, that was Van Putten. My apologies, that was Van Putten that was around just in front of Craig Dancy. So that closes the gap between Dancy and Schiff, the Team Shazoo teammates. So I mean, great avoidance from Craig Dancy. That was great reaction to get on the brakes and not make contact, especially through such a high-speed corner. Now, I haven't done a lot of driving around this track in these particular cars, so I would defer to you gentlemen. What makes that spoon corner so difficult? We've seen so many mistakes. We've seen people invalidating lap times in qualifying. We've seen people spinning out, and in a similar way through that high-speed left-hand corner at turn 15, just before going over the bridge. What makes that so difficult in these cars?
It's really difficult because you're getting there. You have so much entry speed into it. The apex is very late. You're actually braking while turning. So the weight of the car and the balance is shifting, and you, as we have seen a lot of times, a lot of the drivers are taking the the curb outside. You need to get all the way out there, otherwise there's track that you haven't used, because you need to get the speed out of theirs to the straight. It's so important. So that corner is just 5 or 6 things that is just difficult in a normal circumstance, that's just packed into one. So that's why spoon is such a difficult corner, and these cars are already just on the limit with just how much grip they have, and they don't have a huge amount of downforce. Well, for a GT car of course they do, but when you compare to prototypes of Formula cars, they don't have that much downforce, but they're still, well, unless you tell one, but you just really having to go right on the limit, as we're seeing Asger Hepscott just passing shift into 130R and continuing on his well, it was a clean move, but a move through 130R is always a aggressive move in my book, with shifts is not looking to be really handling that car really well at the moment.
Worth taking a look at is the lap times between Talvar and our leader Nedelik. Talvar hasn't really gained much. When he got into that third position, I believe he was about 16.9 seconds back. Since then, he's only gotten to 15.5 seconds, and with the laps rapidly winding down, he's going to really have to get up on that horse. He may be able to catch Andy Gorton. That's very possible. But if he wants to pull off this massive upset and take away that lead from Martin Nedelik in the BMW, he's got his work cut out for him.
He's got about 15 laps to go, and he's got about 15-second gap. So, I mean, it's very clear the equation that he needs to get there. He needs 1 second a lap, and at the moment, he is nowhere near that.
So a superhero comeback, stalling out a bit for the 121 of Talvar. Andy Gorton holding strong in P2, though it looks like Talvar has got him in the windshield and is watching that light blue BMW get bigger and bigger and bigger in that windshield. And after the moves that we've seen Talvar make, I don't think there would be anything that would give me more anxiety than seeing the red nose of that GTE in my mirror.
Also, one interesting thing is actually last time around, Mel Cardinin was half a second faster roughly than pretty much everybody else in the pro field. So he's showing some great pace, and actually the only person that was faster than that I can see is Craig Dancy. So we've got some slight upsets really in terms of lap time there. I mean, actually Talvar's now just got another 56.5 last time around, which is a second quicker than Martin Nedelik. So I said he needs to go a second lap quicker, and on that lap he just proved what I said to be true, and that he can get it in the end instead. And I've actually just noticed that he's made 34 positions. That's kind of what caught me off guard. I didn't realize just how big of a number it was in just around an hour of racing. But yeah, he's currently on pace, and so we're gonna have to watch that closely. And he hasn't in fact stalled out like we thought. As
Hepscott has just gone into the pits. But you were talking about lap times. The leader, the fastest driver out there is actually John Hallowell, all the way down in 33rd position. He is his fastest lap time is a 1:55.4. So that is the difference between.
He's for tires.
Yeah.
He's lost Brumfield. Bromfield has had a throughput issue, so that is something technical, some sort of issue in that regard. So that has unfortunately ended his race. But yeah,
No,
I think
Brumfield's still on
Callaway.
track on my end.
Yeah.
Are you sure you
Oh
have the
wait,
right car?
that's sorry, no, that's Brumfield's second spotter account that he uses to record his footage because he plays in VR. So he's all right. It's just that it was Stephen Brumfield 2, sorry, that fell to an unacceptable level.
Well, when you clone yourself, it can't be difficult.
Well, that's true. Ooh,
So
Telva
now
has
in
been...
the battle for Pro-Am between Dancy and Schiff has actually spread out a good bit. Dancy has been able to walk away with it a little bit, as the 172 of Days Luzak has actually overtaken Schiff. So that's one more car between the two. So that is your podium currently in Pro-Am. Cass Hogan out the 250 BMW from Craig Dancy in the 254 and Philip Schiff in the 276. Then in the fight for the top 5, we have Roberte Edouard in the first, I believe, of the Porsches in the field, as well as the 220 of Thomas Lagney in that red, white, and blue BMW. Now for the lead in AM, which we haven't talked about as of late, looks like Luca Lodato is currently in the lead. I believe the teammate to Mamano, who had trouble at the beginning of the race. That is a Ford right there, sponsored by Cube Controls. That is the Raptor Racing team. There, just behind him, is a Pro-Am driver. Then, I believe, second currently in class for the AM drivers, Thomas Koom, in that iRacing iFlag sponsored V3 Racing entry. That is the second of the Fords that V3 Racing has fielded today. Then Merlin Cooper, the BMW, or sorry, no, that is a Ferrari, a very damaged Ferrari, might I add.
that's why.
Quite a lot of damage to the both the rear wing and the front nose. Then yet another Pro-Am driver in the middle, then Mamano, a good recovery for him after having an off at the beginning of the race, and a very damaged Porsche, the of Thomas Saint-Tot. I can't, nope. And then Cohen Van Eyck, who was our pole sitter and has had quite a lot of issues. Actually, he's just passed someone who's gone off. Who was that?
That's Alpol, who's
yep,
just been off there, but and he's driving around without a front, and he's pitting.
Yeah, he's completely missing his front clip on that car. That is, ladies and gentlemen at home, don't try that at home. That is, of course, an advanced cooling strategy. Very dangerous, very advanced. Only professionals have been allowed to use it.
Oh, that was one hell of an off that he got through 130R. That he didn't hit anything, but yeah, that's definitely new pants.
Well, he's pulled into the pit lane. Also, one interesting thing is obviously he doesn't have headlights there, and we're getting a little bit dark. And actually, he's now repaired his front, so he does have headlights again. But he didn't have headlights, and it's getting quite dark. So one thing you'd have to watch out for is if it did get dark enough. I don't think it will, but it's going to get close to full darkness. If he's not got headlights on the front of that car, that could be an interesting ride around Suzuka.
Well, he could get back to iRacing's headlight system before they updated it.
I don't know if no headlights will light up the trees though.
No. Well, that it was really bad. I remember if at the moment I'm looking at Van Puten, if you're Philip Schiff and you had headlights, you weren't able to see Lucas in the 172 with that distance. It was just horrendous of how bad the lighting were at that point. As Telva is getting a lot closer to Andy Gordon, the gap is now under 3 seconds, and he's slowly getting the lap times in there. I think Gordon has had some sort of issue.
Gordon hasn't had an issue, but I think he's counting down the laps, to say the least. Just hoping to see that checkered flag in the flagman's hands in just about 10 laps time.
He had a little bit of an off last lap in the Casio triangle because It was a bit off put because he had the spinning Dan Alpole in front of him that we saw, and so he just missed his braking point and had to go straight on, and that will have cost him a bit of time, and that's why Talvar's closed so much. Also, he's lagging around a little bit, so his lap times aren't counting.
That's why. Yeah, as Timo Nukkinen has had some sort of issue as well with his last lap being a 2-minute and 2. So, but he's still P4, and well, it's learning. You know, these races they're longer than normal, and that's a difficult thing. At the normal iRacing race would have been over now, and so this is kind of the endurance, the championship minutes. You know, these last 20 minutes, these are the unknown. I remember when we talked with Stefan Kamke last time, where he was talking about that he actually got a bit surprised how dark it got at was it Imola, and so stuff like that can really, you know, take the drivers by surprise. And also tire life, you know, you haven't tested out these amount of laps and fuel loads with the tires, so everything from now on is a complete unknown to the drivers.
The sun setting in the west of Suzuka, Japan. As we close in on the end of the race, the leader getting ready to... He's just crossed the line to take 10 to go, I believe that is. So lap 32.41 complete, as just ahead of our leader Martin Nedelik, flashing the lights to get past the lapped car of, that was Momano, the AM driver in the Ferrari, getting passed by our leader in a massive 9 seconds from first to second. So the battle to keep an eye on is going to be the 185 Ford of Andy Gorton and the 121 Ford of Rainer Talvar towards the end of this race. I'm sure Andy, in that cockpit, got to be getting, those hands got to be getting sweaty, the heart rate getting up as he sees the red nose of the Radicals Online Ford getting bigger and bigger in his mirror.
He might be
on high instance, by the way. In fact, some people have even got drive-through penalties.
Oh yeah. Well, Gordon as well. I think he might be looking in his mirror and being like, "Where did you come from? What? Why are you here?" You know.
I expected to have a nice race without you this time.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Though, to be fair, this is Gordon's return to the series. I don't believe he was in attendance at either Spa or Imola earlier in the season, so this will be his first time racing with Rainer on. So we'll get to see what his reaction is to Rainer's, some might say, aggressive driving style.
As the two drivers who have gotten drive-through penalties are Alpole and Hepsgaard. I think Hepsgaard might have called it a day. Actually, with his aggressive driving as well, we saw. Danzy still on 17. And now I have said it, and now he will get an off track, and it will be all Clay's fault.
Well, we said it about 15 minutes ago that he had 17, and he's still on it, so he's got half of that. He's just got to do that again, basically, and he's already had one scare with Van Putten spinning in front of him, and actually he's only 2.7 behind his pro-am rival of Cass, because oh, and actually that's Blair Mann who spun off in 130R right in front of Craig Dancy every time, and actually Dancy spun. He's nearly had head-to-head contact.
Oh yeah, Dancy spun,
Dancy spun, which means he's now got a drive-through penalty.
Oh my goodness.
And we saw Andy Gorton has gone into the pit lane as well.
I believe it is the pit stop window now. But, yeah, Dancy will not be enjoying that at all.
He had really fought his way back up through the field, and now he can do it all over again. And remember, he needs to pit on maybe the next lap.
Yeah. So there you go. He's serving his drive-through, come through the pits, and is out behind Ben Goldie, who was 13th across the line. Obviously, pit stop windows means that we're going to have to see as things shuffle out who is actually going to end up where, but Dancy's now essentially lost himself around 20 to 25 seconds of time, which is just not exactly what he would have been looking for. He was so close to being able to take the lead off of Cass, and now he's put himself back to where he sort of was back when he spun around in 130 at the beginning of the race.
So Martin Nedelik electing to stay out. Andy Gorton trying a bit of strategy coming in, I would presume, a lap earlier. We'll have to take a look. We'll keep an eye here on the leader.
We said he underfueled in the first pit stop, as the Andy Gorton thing is to do.
Very true.
So that will actually help Rayner, because that means that Andy will probably have had a longer pit stop because he needs to put more fuel in to get to the end. So Talvar's going to be thinking, if he can just put in a couple of good laps on that lower fuel load that he's currently got and have a shorter pit stop, he might be able to get back in front into that P2 position. Actually, Talvar's just set his fastest lap of the race of a 56.259, which was around 0.8 of a second clear of Martin Nedelik last time, and that is going to be exactly what he wants, to get in front of Andy Gorton. And Gorton actually has traffic as they come up to the final chicane of Ian Van Putten and Mateusz Luxak, and Luxak pits, which means he's only got one car to navigate. But these guys are for position; they are not lapped. They just haven't pitted yet. So Gorton, they're not going to let Gorton through just out of the blue. So he's going to have to watch out for that one.
But Mamano, who just came out of the pits, that is lap traffic, and that is not what he wanted to see as well.
Yeah, so that pit strategy maybe not going to work out for Andy Gorton. Rainer Talvar has now closed the gap to under 11 seconds to the leader. That is 10.9 seconds as it stands, roundabout, between Nedelik and Talvar. I'm not sure Talvar has enough time, though, to catch up unless there's some sort of issue for Nedelik in the pit lane. That's the only situation I could see where Rainer could manage to take that lead. But I mean, what a comeback, what a statement to come from 37th on the grid all the way up to second. And an update, another driver that's come through the field quite a lot is Ben Goldie, that 247 Ford, now coming back out of the pits. Started 26th, currently scored in the 13th position. On the outside, going around him, is the Raptor Racing car. That is Luca Lodato. That is the leader in AM, I believe. Just behind him is another Pro-Am car, so a nice variety there. Broomfield, just behind, trying to take the position from the Pro driver just ahead of him.
Broomfield has not had the greatest of races tonight.
Talvar is in the pits.
Talvar's in the pits. Broomfield has not had the happiest of races here. He was really strong in the first race and has been looking to struggle a bit these last two rounds. So, you are a team member. Is he looking to switch car? Oh, it's heating up here. Is that Ferrari still his best car, or is he might also looking for a factory change down the line?
1 second, just quickly, as we have a rejoin on the grid of Rainer Talvar, 7/10 in front of Andy Gorton, so he's jumped him in the pit stop.
And Nedelik appears to have some traffic ahead of him that he's going to have to navigate. A pretty decent gap, though, to the next car ahead. He was flashing the lights, though it looks like the next car ahead is the 24, the Carbon Esports Blue Ford. That is Thomas Gowron. So a decent gap there, not much pace ahead of him, so I think Nedelik has dodged a bullet here with traffic, whereas Talvar has a couple of decently paced cars ahead of him. Of course, the first of those is, who is that? That is Jorge Reyes in the Privateer entry, the Ferrari. That is an AM driver, and then ahead of him, another AM driver, Merlin Cooper in the V3 Racing Red Ferrari. So as it stands, I'm not thinking that Rainer will have enough time to catch Martin.
No, it stands about 10 seconds, and they will have 6 laps at the end of this one, which means that the amount of time needed is just over around 1.5 seconds. So on raw pace, Talvar doesn't have that much of an advantage, so it would require an incident for any upset to happen now. It cannot be done on lap time, so yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, it's not said and done. They are in the middle of some lap traffic, and it's not an easy racetrack to navigate, as everyone's proven so far this race. We're down to 29 cars on the lead lap. No, sorry, 20. Okay, it's jumping around on my standing. But we have we have 24 cars left on the lead lap, which at a 2-minute long lap that's not a lot of people. Obviously, at shorter layouts, you'd expect to see that would be quite a lot of people, but when it's 2 minutes to get around, that just shows how kind of strung out and how instant heavy this race has been, because if you've been able to build that much of a gap that in not really that long a time, then events must have happened to kind of cause that, because these drivers, a lot of them are just a top class. And obviously, I know people will be saying, well, Talbot seems to be in a league of his own, but trust me, all these other guys around him are no slouches. They are extremely quick, and yeah, it's not an easy track to navigate at all, especially with a lot of these drivers perhaps being a bit tired after the weekend of the 24 hours of Spa, which is the last 24-hour race of the season of the main special events. So after this, we shouldn't really have that excuse anymore, but there might have been some sleepless nights over the weekend.
Well, they are racing drivers. They will be having excuses anyways.
Well, that's very true. They do complain a lot and have excuses, don't they? Though on the topic of retirements, a couple of significant ones to take note of. Lasse Sorensen, who was performing rather well in the Pro-Am class, as well as Asger Hedsgaard, have both disconnected from the session. So Andy Gorton now just a little bit, looks like just under 2 seconds behind Rainer Talvar. I don't think he has the pace to mount much of a challenge. Tino behind him with a pretty decent gap to Michael Edens. Cass Hogenhout still proving his pace at this track. The 250 car is the leader in Pro-Am. That is a Comrade Gaming car, despite what I believe you don't have
the
overlay says that
you don't have the updated one. He did sign with the Comrade Gaming as we did Alert 2 last time.
Well, here's a comeback. Alex Bennett, after that penalty at the beginning of the race, went all the way to the front.
I'm afraid that's going to get
through field
because he's coming into the pits right now.
Okay, so he will lose a few. He will lose a few positions, but I mean, even so, that's still a hell of a comeback.
I think he might have picked up another penalty there.
Well, no, it's just because he had to pit for that penalty.
No, look at his pit entry again. He came in quite hard.
You can do that though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, oh no, he didn't go down fast enough though. Like
No.
he was almost there, and then he kind of sat at 65 for a longer period of time, and I think that will have got him one. So yeah, I mean, you can be aggressive on the pit entry, but yeah, you have to slam it down, and he didn't slam it down hard enough.
It's a battle for P11 at the moment with Thomas Lackney and Robert Edward is still going on and heating up a bit. These two have been, well, having a bit of quiet races, and just, you know, especially Lackney just having his day, just doing the laps, and is now you know, looking to be getting some really strong points. It's actually the battle for the last podium place in the class. So good races for both of these, and interesting to see if Edward have anything he can really throw at Lackney at this point.
And actually, Dancy's just tried to send a move around the outside of the hairpin on Stephen Brumfield as he tries to fight back from that drive-through penalty. Since then, Dancy has collected even more incidents and is now on 22, so he's nearing disqualification, so he's better be careful as he fights Brumfield.
Brumfield letting him by, sending him a message on the radio, just take it. As, I mean, the aggression of Dancy has been clearly evident throughout the race. So, I mean, where do you draw the line between trying to get positions and putting yourself at risk of disqualification and of course having a drive-through that pretty much negates all of the progress that he made towards the front of the field?
The problem with Dancy is what I talked about with consistency. He hasn't banged wheels with anybody or had like risky moves. He's just, in terms of his own self-driving, he's just not been consistent. He's been getting off tracks, spins and losses of controls, and he's just racked up instant points from that, and that's kind of been the main scene of his issues, is that I mean, it is difficult around here. Don't get me wrong. The track limits are very tight, but everybody else is, well, not everybody. A lot of people have been high on the incident limit, but people.
Everyone has the same limits.
Yeah, everyone has the same limits, and this is why when we had the discussion of should he be in a pro driver, yes, he has the pace, but unfortunately he just doesn't quite have that consistency that I talked about right at the start of this event that he needs if he's going to really be justified as a pro driver.
As Thomas Lackney has actually lost the position to Robert Edward in the central car, and it's now P3 over in the Pro-Am class. And this battle is definitely heating up, and it's not over at this point. I think Lackney might have made a small mistake with a 159.2.
Yeah, just always at this late stage of a race, an incident point heavy track, you've always got to check who is on the incident board and who isn't. Roberto Edouard only has 5 incident points, so well done to him. I mean, Michael Eden is doing a stellar job up there, in 5th position on 0 incident points. So that's an extra bonus point for him as well, if he can just hold on for another 4 minutes without just venturing a little bit wide. He has got cast behind him, but they're not for class position, so in terms of nerves, I don't think he should be too worried, and that's a stellar job. Also, one thing, can I just say, I'm loving actually being able to hear the radio this season. I think it's because we now have administrator privileges in the box for the session, and that just makes it so much. I mean, obviously, we don't want to broadcast it on the stream, but
no,
I'm loving having the information from the drivers and actually being able to hear kind of their communication to each other.
Ooh, as Robert Edward is sending it a bit hot into turn 1, and Lackney's definitely piling on the pressure here. But yeah, as you're saying, you know, having that team radio, I can't hear what they're saying because, you know, I'm the one streaming. So, but yeah, it's good to have that information and a bit of insight. But we would need the blipping machine here.
Yeah, we would need to install some sort of way of censoring the messages, and we can't do that because they're broadcasted directly to us.
Yeah.
So we cannot give you them. We can only give you the paraphrased versions. From me and Brayden. So, but yeah, it's still a nice thing to have this season, and this race especially. There's been a lot of chatter on the radio, and actually, Lanny is right on the back of Roberti as well as they come up towards Spoon, but Edouard just hugging that inside line, and it does actually prove a massive advantage through that curve, having the inside line because of that shorter distance, and you're not really scrubbing off too much more speed because of it. And yeah, it just holds the position through Spoon, off camber Spoon. We were talking about earlier about how tricky it is, and that is one of the aspects of it. And Edouard just didn't quite hit the apex, which gives Lavney another run as they head towards 130R. Can he think about it? He's looking like he might try and show the nose, but no, thinks better of it. But there are only 2 laps to go at the end of this one, so it's gonna have to. Oh, and actually, that's. Oh, I don't know whether Lanny missed his braking point or Edouard. It's because he was on the inside.
Edouard definitely. It sounded like he was braking really early there.
Yeah, I think what's happened is he's gone to the inside and he's just lost his reference point because he was there, and yeah, that's just has sent him off. And Lanny actually, I think, he got a 4x, which gave him 18 instant points, so he's now having to serve his drive-through, which is just not what you wanted.
Here's some big news. We have had a change for the lead in the AM class. Thomas Kuhn has taken the lead from Luca Lodato. Looks like potentially on the pit stop, unless there was a mistake from Lodato. A pretty big lead there, about nearly 6 seconds between the two for 21st and 22nd overall, but that is the lead in our AM class. Then in filling out the podium, another V3 Racing driver, Merlin Cooper, who is currently in 25th overall. So that's 2 V3 Racing cars, 1 Ford and 1 Ferrari, currently on the podium in AM class.
Also, well done to Thomas, actually, because it looks like, pending any issues, that he might finish on the lead lap as well, which, with the attrition rate that we've had this race, and everything that's been going on, to finish on the lead lap in the AM category is no easy task, and because obviously it's class racing. It's kind of what you expect. You expect to have lap traffic, and so if you're gonna finish on the lead lap, that's a solid job. And I think if he can pull off the win and stay there, that's a really well done job from him.
Not only that, but he's not a full-time driver. He is a fill-in driver for, I believe, Stefan Komke, who was not able to make the race tonight. So that is a substitute driver. Of course, more than 50 drivers wanted to be in this series, but they do cap the number at 50. So when people aren't able to make it, there is a list of reserve drivers. Thomas was pulled from that list and was in the race tonight. So this is his first race of the season, and he looks like he may come away with a win. And that, I believe, would be his first career win in the series.
I mean, I don't have the list of every single win, but I don't remember it. So that would, perhaps be not only a season debut, but also a maiden victory. So that would be a great way to make your first appearance of the season, and just top it all off on the lead lap, get the win, maiden win. Just sounds like a perfect evening on a Monday night.
I do believe that we are on last lap actually.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. Even though the overlay is saying 2 laps, I do believe we are on the last lap here.
Yeah.
So it looks like. Oh, is Nedelik coming to the checkered or to the?
Yeah. He coming to the checkered.
So flash of lights from Martin Nedelik as he has led nearly every lap, all but 3 or 4 when his teammate Alex Bennett was forced to the pit lane after a violation on the start of the race. So that will be a win for Comrade Gaming White. Martin Nedelik, the 188 car, and coming across the line, Rainer Talvar and Andy Gorton will round out our podium. Gorton recovering from a mistake, while Talvar recovering from a bad qualifying effort, which, I mean, was a mistake as well. I mean, as anyone can imagine, he likely could have won this race if not for those mistakes he made getting off tracks at the during qualifying, as he will come around the outside, congratulating Martin Nedelik, still flashing the lights in celebration. And coming across the line now, Cass Hoganau has come across the line. He will win in Pro-Am.
As Ben Goldie has just been off. A huge incident with an AM. Went off into Spoon and lost 2 positions to Selenev and Broomfield here on the last lap.
So he has then fallen off of the podium. Cass Hoganau with a massive lead over his competition. Philip Schiff has come across the line, and Roberta Edouard. That is a BMW and a Porsche that have both come across the line on the podium for Pro-Am. Now for Am, Thomas Kuhn, where is he on track? He has not yet come across the line flashing the headlights, but he is about to come through turn 15, that is.
Well, he's going to be our last man across the line because, like we talked about, he has managed to complete all 41 laps of this race. So there you go. He's going to come through the Casio triangle to take what looks like, well, it is certainly an AM win. Nobody's on his lap in the AM category, so there's nothing else to worry about.
So in the AM category, that will be Thomas Kuhn from Luke Lodato and Merlin Cooper, who will round out the podium in AM. So that's 2 V3 Racing drivers on the AM podium. I'm sure a big celebration from Thomas Kuhn will try to get him into the booth. But I mean, what a race! We had high levels of attrition, a strong performance to begin from Comrade Gaming that ended up, ending, so to speak, in disaster for a few of their drivers. Alex Bennett finishing 20th after taking the lead on the initial start. Was penalized for that, as well as Blair Mann, who had damage at the beginning of the race. That was another Comrade Gaming car. So despite having taking the win in Pro, quite a bit of not exactly the cleanest of races from that team.
No, there was a bit of an issue off the start with Philip Schiff. They were going so slowly on the formation lap, and he was just... he got caught out by that and planted down the throttle and ended up rear-ending Man into Nadelig, but that meant that Nadelig basically had to do the entire race with a fair amount, well, no, I wouldn't say as much as he'd had in Spa last week, but he still had damage to his rear end, so he luckily for him, everybody else behind him also had a lot of issues, but yeah, no, he still managed to not make any mistakes. Just get it home clean, get it home in one piece, and he got the win for it.
Now to ask those still watching live of our live coverage, we'd like to ask for your nominations for the most valuable driver of the race. I'd also like to ask my co-commentators up here in the booth your thoughts on that. But before we do that, let's take a look at our final standings. As we discussed, Martin Nedelik took home the overall victory, followed by Rainer Talvar and Eddie Gorton that rounded out the podium. Followed by Tino, my man, as well as Michael Eden's Cass Hogenout was the winner in Pro-Am, 6th place overall, followed by Arjan Van Putten. After him, in 2nd and 3rd in Pro-Am, Philip Schiff, followed by Roberte Edward. Then Craig Dancy, just missing the Pro-Am podium. One could say that if not for his aggression that led to that drive-through penalty from the stewards, he may have made his way onto the Pro-Am podium. Then Mateusz Luzak, who we spoke about quite a lot tonight, comes home 11th overall, followed by Alexei Seleznev. And after him, Steven Brumfield, Ben Goldie, and Blair Mann, both Comrade Gaming drivers after them. Thomas Lagney, Victor Mateos, Chris Yardley, and Patrick Witowski, followed by Alex Bennett, who rounds out the top 20. And 21st place was our AM winner, Thomas Kuhn, followed by Luke Litato, Merlin Cooper, Kiefer McKenna, Danielle Mamano, Jorge Reyes, Cohen Van Eyck, Thomas Gowron, Thomas Intote, and John Hallowell, who I believe was the first of our drivers that did not finish the race. Among others, other notable drivers that did not finish, Asger Hebsgaard, who was having a strong run before a mistake took him out. Dan Alpel did not finish the race, or just did not finish anywhere near the lead lap, having been missing the front end of that BMW M8 GTE. Marvin Sluman in the livery of shame. Mike Skeppers also retired early in the race, 26 laps down. Let's say B. Sorensen, Alex Schmidt, and our last finisher, 41st place, Patrick Werbury. So taking a look, I'd like to ask you gentlemen, who do you think was the most valuable driver of this race?
I'm gonna give my driver of the day to Talva. I mean, he's made up 35 positions, I think, off where he started. I mean, with at Suzuka, if you've made up 35 positions off your starting grid spot and only 6 seconds off the lead, that's an impressive drive. So yeah, he certainly gets my driver of the day award.
Yeah, I don't think you can look past that. That was a championship drive right there, and you know, when I saw that at the beginning, he said that he didn't qualify. I was like, that's gonna be a difficult race for him. And you know, already after the first pit stop, he was up there battling with the top 5 guys, and that was just one hell of a drive.
Now, for me, I know you guys have obviously both mentioned Talvar, but I do want to give a big shout out to the performance of Kaz Hogenout, because as a Pro-Am driver, he spent much of the day in the overall on the overall podium, had a clean race, no mistakes. I mean, I can imagine being around drivers that he's normally not around. You can imagine the pressure he must have been under. You would have expected a mistake from most other drivers, yet he still managed to finish 6th. But I mean, obviously, you gotta give props to Rainer Talvar for that performance. It's hard to really mention anyone else when you see such a strong performance from our current points leader. And I believe we have a few interviews lined up. So who do you guys want to take in first?
Let's take Rainer, with that race. And here we have.
So, now with us in the commentary box, Rainer Talvar, our P2 finisher, started 37th. First off, I want to ask you, what was your first thought when you saw that rather ominous 1X on the top of your screen during your qualifying laps that you knew you were going to have to start from the back?
Well, first of all, I saw that I'm on a 54. Well, I was 3/10 up on a 54.2, and then I just, yeah, I got so scared for some reason and just ran wide in spoon, and I was like, yep, I'm gonna have a fun race.
Well, you drove all the way through the field. We took note often of big moves you were making. Despite the aggression, you were able to keep it clean. How do you decide where the line is? Such a fine line between being over aggressive and just being on that line. So how do you personally decide where that line is and how hard you want to drive that car?
I think for me the line is as long as I leave room for the other car and we don't make contact, it's a clean move.
And now, still leading the point standings, you've almost won every single race. How do you feel about your chances for this championship? I mean, it seems pretty clear from up here that you are the championship favorite.
I mean, it would be nice to win it, but obviously there's still 7 rounds or 6 rounds to go, and who knows what might happen.
So, with 6 rounds to go, my last question is: where do you think your strongest performance will be, if not a track that we've already seen?
Actually, to be fair, I have no idea what's in the end of the calendar, but I know a few tracks that I'm not going to be strong at, and those are going to be Daytona and Nordschleife, I think. Because
All right.
the 4 doesn't go well in Daytona, and Nordschleife is just...
It's Nordschleife, yeah.
Well, we'd like to congratulate you on that strong performance, and wish you good luck next week.
Thank you.
All right, so let's bring Dancy and get his opinion on that. If one of you guys want to talk to him.
We
I got it.
about it. Yeah. Hello, Dancy. That was a race of having a fair good start, then getting off, fighting your way back, and what did you think when you then had that last spin at the end?
I've got to admit, I was quite annoyed because I sat on 17X for ages and I was like, I'll just be cautious, I'll be careful, I won't make any mistakes, and then I did. I felt like I could have done a lot more of that race, maybe even an overall podium because people kept spinning around me, but I guess there's always next week.
Speaking of next week, how do you feel about Daytona? Because now we have seen you perform quite well the last couple of races, and really being a thorn in the eyes of the pro drivers. Do you think at Daytona you can be there as well, and do you think that you might actually be joining them in the classification next time?
Well, funnily enough, my best track is Daytona, so I have a funny feeling I might be that thorn again, kind of mixing it with the pros. And for being in pro, I've seen a few pros have to drop out the league through their own issues, so I think it might happen at some point soon. If I can keep this up, obviously.
Yeah, you can. With this race, do you still feel that you would be, a contender to the Pro-Am, championship this year? And do you think that it's doable if you, are kept in the same class?
I think it would be really close between me, Cass, and Philip. They're both really quick, and I don't know. With their pace, it's quite close to mine, if not even better at certain tracks. So it'll be close and provide a lot of entertainment for you.
Good. Do you guys have any questions? No.
I think you've answered pretty much for me.
Well, then we will say thank you and thank you for the race, Craig. It was good fun, and good luck next time.
Thank you.
All right, let's have the last interview because I kind of had to go, and let's have Thomas in here because he did win.
True. Well, we do also have Martin in there. Martin
but
Edelick.
yeah, but I have to go. So
okay.
let's
All right,
let's get
let's grab
Thomas in here
Thomas
and let's see here. Hello, Thomas, and congratulations on your win. How did you see that race?
Well, I didn't qualify because I was a bit apprehensive of lap 1. I was struggling really a lot at turn 1 especially. So I sort of just wanted to sit back and see what happened. I wasn't really expecting more than a top 5 in class, if I could even stay on the track. But yeah, to come out with a win is very surprising.
Well, as your teammate in V3 racing, it put a smile on my face to see you get that win. But also, you're known for your safety as a driver. So with a race that was so focused on attrition and just keep staying out of trouble, what was your strategy, and how surprising was it to find yourself in the lead?
Well, to start with, I sort of was just trying to stay out of all the mess, especially at the start. It got very bunched up and I didn't want any contact. And sort of as the race went on, got to about halfway through, and I think I realized I was about P3. So I was just trying to push to catch Merlin and I think it was Luca. I had a spin at 130R, which was a bit scary. So I managed to keep that out of the wall, and I was about 20 seconds behind then. So I thought it was pretty much P3 was the best I could do. And then Merlin, I think, made a mistake, and I was sorting my fuel out for the final stop, and I saw a car off to the right, and I thought it was Luca from seeing him earlier in the race. And then when I got to my pit stop, I realized it was him, so it was just a case then of trying to keep it on the track and bring home the win.
So, is there any more significance to this, given that you were a reserve driver, or is this just another drop in the bucket, another something to put on your resume?
Well, I've not driven in this league for about a year, so it was good to get back out there. It was a fun race, and yeah, I'm just hoping to build on it and get some more good results later in the season.
Well, it was a pleasure watching you out there. Congratulations on the win and good luck next week.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we have reached the end of our broadcast. We will see you all next week at Daytona. Any final thoughts from you, gentlemen?
No,
All
no,
right.
no, really.
Well, on behalf of my colleagues James Clay and Nick Domino, I am Brayden Hill, and we'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. And we can't wait to see you same time next week. It will be next Monday at Daytona. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.